I know we're running over, so in conclusion, don't get your hopes up. Bob, thank you for that nice introduction. I don't know if you know this or not, but public speaking is actually terrifying. According to David Wolonchinski, who wrote the Book of Lists, I had a chance to have dinner with David Wolonchinski. We both spoke at Vanderbilt University, and he found out I was a public speaker. He said, Rita, that's the #1 fear in the world. And I said, really? What's the #2 fear in the world? He said, death by fire. I said, you mean people would rather burn to death than do what I do for a living? I think I should have hazardous duty pay or something if that's the case. He said, absolutely. It's how many of you would be a little bit nervous if you were up here right now before this very esteemed audience? It is terrifying. Well, I mean, I have been blessed and grateful to be able to share with you. And that's all I'm doing is sharing. I don't have all the answers. I promise you one thing, though. You will not leave here the same person that walked in here, the same person that came to this GAMA Lamp event. You will not leave the same person. Only thing that separates us, and I've been listening to a lot of the speakers, is awareness. And your awareness about your greatness is even better. But to share with you, and by the way, Bob failed to mention, I speak 2 languages, English and Southern. I am so Southern, I'm even kin to myself. My family tree looks like a wreath. Mama said, well, back then, cousins went to family reunions just to get dates. I was raised right here in Nashville, and by the way, if you gain a little weight while you're here, in the South, gravy is a beverage, okay? So you won't accidentally gain anything, but you just might. But I was raised here in the South, and I was raised being told, don't try to get your hopes up. I never understood that. What good were low hopes? And I need to tell you a little bit about my background because I've actually hired Jason and I've hired John Maxwell to speak for my company because all of us have to realize that we're in a personal development business and that each person has an invisible sign on them and it says, make me feel important. And I have laughed about being able to speak before an audience as esteemed as this one is because all of you people know about gratitude. You know it's the #1 mental step in adjustment for prosperity. We have a high-profile audience here that make very, very good money. How many of you would have been here today if you flew in on your Learjet and you lived in about, a 30,000 square foot house? Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And you had your own valet, and you had kind of like Downton Abbey, if you watch that. You have that kind of lifestyle. Would you be here? I know I would be here. I don't have that lifestyle, but I would be here because school is never out for the pro, and the more you learn, the more you earn. My Southern roots, though, and it is so fun to be able to be in Nashville and to go back to the area that I grew up in and kind of reminisce a little bit. But being able to share with all of you of the travel that I took. I remember, and by the way, being able to speak, I mentioned that public speaking is the #1 fear. Bob did a great job introducing me. I was asked once to introduce a friend of mine to a group of 200 salesmen when I was working as a consumer service specialist at Arizona Public Service. And before the introduction, backstage talking with my girlfriend, and she said, I'm so nervous, Rita, because that audience is made up of men. Well, I couldn't understand that because, first of all, I love men, especially short men, because they can't see your roots. But, and I married one. I have 2 sons. I heard Princess Di had an heir and a spare, so I have an heir and a spare. So I couldn't understand why my friend Marion was so nervous. I said, Marion, what are you so nervous about? You're articulate and you're talented and beautiful. And I didn't tell you this about my friend Marion. My friend Marion was very voluptuous, sort of the Dolly Parton syndrome, something that I've never suffered from myself. And she said, well, Rita, because of my figure, I sometimes feel like men are staring at me. I said, oh, good grief. Men don't even notice things like that. She said, you know, Rita, I treasure your friendship. She said, because you've got a knack for making people feel better about themselves. You know, we often find people doing things wrong. What if we started looking for good things in everybody we come in contact with? What a difference that would make in their lives. I said, Marion, you're the absolute best. You get out there and you do a great job. They're not going to notice something like that. I get up to introduce my friend, and I say to that audience, It is indeed a pleasure to present to you today my very best friend. Yeah. The girl crawled up to the podium on her hands and knees and did her entire presentation bent down behind it. And I realized that nobody's going to call me their best friend. When I was just about 16, I went to my first junior-senior prom. I grew up here and didn't have a lot. We didn't have inside plumbing, and I had a cousin visit us from California. I took her to the outhouse, and she said, well, how you flush it? I thought she's slow. But we didn't have a lot, so I had to borrow a girlfriend's dress. Some of you might remember these dresses, big full hoop skirts, and they were strapless. Well, that dress didn't touch me anywhere. But Mama was sharp. She said, just keep your arms down and don't run into a wall, and you'll be all right. Well, we go to the dance, and we're dancing a fast dance, and my partner turned me. I turned, but the dress didn't. But you know what? It fit me better that way. I just moved the flowers to the front. That was the only thing giving it away. Now, to make matters worse, my old boyfriend, Carl Dean, married Dolly Parton. I never understood what he saw in her. In fact, I never even understood why a guitar was cut out till I saw her grab one. Did you ever think about it? You will the next time you see her grab one. I was so grateful, by the way, to get to interview Dolly Parton. And recently she performed in Phoenix, my hometown now, and she got out and told the entire audience. She said, some of you might have heard of Rita Davenport. Well, she's in the audience, and that was really Jolene, who I wrote the song about. Well, now I've got another nickname, Jolene, because of Dolly Parton. But what an amazing talent, and how she blessed the audience by sharing her testimonial. Now, you're going to find out today that your past is a canceled check. Your future is a promissory note. The only really legal tender you have is this moment right now. So live in the now. Get the most that you can from this, possibly that you can from this opportunity. You're going to also find out that we all have problems. If I played a game right now and I said, write your problem down, and by the way, don't tell people your problems. Half of them don't want to hear it. Other half are glad. So be careful who you tell your problems. Put your problem up here on stage. Go back and get comfortable, and your problem is gone, but you got to come back up here and get somebody else's problem. When you saw what was written down on these little pieces of paper, you'd be fighting to get your problem back. Because it's not what happens to you, it's how you let it affect you. I have to give you permission to make me feel bad about myself. And the cause of low self-esteem and confidence, of course, will build your business more than anything you'll ever learn as far as any kind of instruction or information, your confidence. But because of your low self-esteem, they found out that people, though, compare themselves to each other. That causes low self-esteem. I've been backstage since about 10 o'clock listening to your speakers. I'm going, I can't go out there. Look at all that. By the way, can I have my first slide and PowerPoint? Can I have the first one? How about the second one? I don't have any PowerPoint. I'm just messing with those kids back there. They're all running around now trying, where's the PowerPoint? She never gave me anything. Did John Maxwell have anything left over? Just throw something up there. I'll talk about it, no matter what. Take what you do seriously, but don't take yourself seriously, because you're going to mess up. And when you do, just say, you know, this is a learning experience. Failure is a chance to change course in my direction. Failure is a chance to develop my sense of humor. I teach with humor, because about 87% of what you retain is a result of learning why you're laughing. So if there's a tendency on your part you feel like you want to laugh, and you don't know if it's, you know how something's funny to you, sometimes not funny to somebody next to you, for God's sakes, don't hold back chuckles. You let her rip. You let her rip, because there's research out that if you hold back chuckles, the air tends to go back down and expand the hips. And if it gets into the lower intestine, we'd have to clear the room. So do not. If you feel like you want to laugh, you let her rip. Because as I said, what's really important today when you leave is not what you think about your speaker. I'd be honored if you remember my name. But it's what you think about yourself that's really important. One idea can make you a multimillionaire. I'm going to talk about money. Y'all, first of all, I have to say to the women in the audience, there is nothing sexier than a rich woman. You know, so my friend Dolly says, if it's bagging, sagging, or dragging, and you got enough money, you can nip it, tuck it, or suck it. And you have already found out that you have a purpose for your life. Duh. You had to come to Nashville to find out you have a purpose for your life. Some of you are not worried about your purpose because you can't figure out, why is she wearing 2 watches? That's driving some of you crazy. How many is wondering about the 2 watches? Okay, well, listen up. This may be your takeaway. This right here is about a $29 Timex watch. I wear it because I can see it. Now this right here, this is about a $30,000 platinum diamond Rolex watch. I wear it because you can see it. Let me assure you of one thing. I don't need a Rolex watch, but you need to see me wearing one. Because to some of you, I might sound like I just fell off a turnip truck right here at Opryland Hotel. But you scope in on that watch, you're going to be nudging each other. I'm going to listen up, look at that watch she's got on. She must have something good to say about something. Next thing, I don't want you to think that Bob bought in any cheap speaker. I could have charged less, but I did it to honor you. I want you to know that. Had I known, Bob, that they were going to be such a good audience, I'd have charged more. Next time, I will charge more. Does Rolex have 2 L's in it? I just teach with humor, y'all, because if you don't have fun, what good is all the success? You see, money is not everything. I've got some money people in this audience, y'all. And you know what? One idea you're going to get right now can make you a multimillionaire. How many of you, if I could guarantee you that I could increase your net worth, $14 million today, would write me out a check? $5, $10, $15, I don't know. How many would do that if I could guarantee you? Okay, well, hang on to your Spanx or somebody else's or what you're close to, because I'm going to give you some ideas that's going to change your life. Now, I'm not going to change your life, but you're going to change your life because you're going to get in touch with your greatness. When I tell you that you have a purpose for your life, and you also are on purpose by being here, because Ben Franklin said, empty the coins from your purse into your mind will fill your purse overflowing. I didn't hear him say that, by the way, but I heard he say that. And so when you invest in yourself, I'm in a rolling university in my automobile all the time because I'm listening to CDs constantly. School's never out for the pro. And the more you learn, the more you earn. You're at the right place right now to have more, to be more, to learn more, to earn more, to do more, so you can share more. And it feels a lot better to be able to give than it does to get. And the more you give, unless you give to get, you're going to get. Like little simple things, like tipping the maid in housekeeping. I've had them chase me down the hall and say, lady, did you mean to leave this? I'll be able to get Christmas for my kids now. Except for the grace of God, I'd be changing those sheets instead of sleeping in those sheets. And people say, I didn't know you did that. You didn't know you did that? Are you kidding? You can't outgive God, first of all. So look for ways that you can give any chance you get that you can give, and then give praises to people. As I said, everybody's got an invisible sign, make me feel important. William James, the father of psychology, said that man can alter his life by altering his attitude. And I know Napoleon Hill said it. Earl Nightingale said it. I had a chance to have dinner with Earl Nightingale. That you become what you think about all day long. Who are you exposing yourself to? Hang around rich people. That's what you're here for. Now, I don't mean just rich materially. Some of the poorest people I know have a lot of money. I mean rich in knowledge and love and enthusiasm, the true riches that money can't buy. But don't hold it against anybody, this rich materially. Let me make that clear to you. I have a girlfriend, married a very wealthy man. And for a wedding present, he gave her a brand new Rolls Royce. She came to take me out to lunch in it, and we're driving down freeway, and she said, Rita, she said, I know you were raised poor. And Rita, I heard about that story where you were sitting out on the front steps with your grandpa in a dress made out of flour sacks. But you were proud of that dress, Rita, because you know the mental step and adjustment for prosperity is to be grateful for what you have. And you bragged about that new dress, and you called it a feed sack dress because you couldn't say feed sack because you had a speech impediment. She said, but Rita, she said, I know your grandpa was sitting there and he's a sharecropper, and you found out he had gotten on old age assistance, and back then people didn't want to go on old age assistance. You didn't try to get on welfare polls. You tried to stay away. That was a stigma. And you worried about your grandpa. Have you folks ever noticed how close grandkids are to their grandparents? Well, it's because they share a common enemy. I thought I was going to have kids so I could teach them. And I found out you have kids so they can teach you. And I can't wait for my kids to have kids so they can teach them so that I can, full circle. And she said, I remember you saying to your grandpa, when you were just a young man, where did you think you were going to end up someday? He's a hard-working sharecropper. He picked tobacco and he picked cotton. He wasn't some drunk, lazy bum. And I loved him, and I worried about him. He was dressed in overalls, smoking a corncob pipe. His skin was like leather from being out in the elements. I can hear the creaking of that rocking chair still, and I'm sitting there picking at my toes, barefooted, of course. And when he said that answer, where'd you expect to end up? He said, Sugar, I expected I'd end up on old age assistance. And he did, because that's where he expected. From that time on, I started raising my expectation. What you expect, what you believe when you leave here, and what you picture, the power of your mind and visualization. Einstein said is much more important than intelligence. I was so grateful to hear that. But what you expect being pictured, no more, no less. And every one of you, this is a room full of successful people. Every one of you at some time in your life have been subjected to prejudice as I have, or felt inferior as I have. That's a gift, unless you let it shut you down. See, I don't turn my power over to somebody more messed up than me to tell me what's going to happen to me. I just don't do that. Terry Cole Whitaker wrote a book and said, your opinion of me is none of my business. But how many of us absolutely shut down because of what somebody says to us or how people treat us? I interviewed Dustin Hoffman one time when I was doing my local television show, and he had a list of 13 names of people that had told him he was ugly, scrawny, bow-legged, wasn't ever going to amount to nothing. He said, every time I thought about quitting acting, I'd pull out that list and look at that list of people that told me that I would not, could not, should not. We let people tell us what we should do. We have people tell us what we should not do. Do me a favor, from now on, don't let people should on you anymore. People have been shoulding on you for years. In fact, you should on yourself sometimes. You ever hear what you say, your self-talk? The affirmations. Muhammad Ali, I had a chance to interview him when he was Cassius Clay, and then I interviewed him as Muhammad Ali, and he happens to be a neighbor now. I doubt if he brags about that so much, but he is. Muhammad Ali had an affirmation, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. How many of us say that to ourselves? I'm the greatest. He happened to be on a flight after he won the heavyweight championship second time, and my friend was a flight attendant, and everybody was excited to see him. It was so kind. He was signing autographs. He's a real person. He's a great guy. And they got ready to take off, and the pilot announced, by the way, Y'all, I don't recommend flying first class. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never known of an airplane that backed into a mountain. Have you? I walk by those people in first class and I say, suckers. Why do you think they give them free drinks before they take off? Get a grip. Pilot announced, buckle seatbelts. Muhammad Ali didn't buckle his seatbelt. One more time, announced it. My friend went over, she said, sir, you got to buckle your seatbelt before we can take off. Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest, said, Superman don't need no seatbelt. My friend said, and Superman don't need no airplane either. Right now, we were just talking backstage. You're in such a unique position to make such a difference in people's lives. I want you to know my house was struck by lightning a few years ago, and it was a total loss. The agents were there within hours. By the way, I have to be honest with you about something on that, though. You know, God has such a sense of humor. I have to laugh because I never intended to be a public speaker. I intended to be Tina Turner, and that's the truth. And I got some moves, but God knew I would have killed Ike. Because you see, where I grew up here in the South, daddies teach their little girls how to reload. And by the way, God is a man. I was in labor with my first child for 32 hours. No woman would have done that to another woman. My husband says he did it like that because he didn't want a lot of suggestions. And I'd had a few. First one is, why didn't he let us all stand up to go to the bathroom? That was a good thing. I had a little brother that used to tick me off to see how easy that was, in and out. Why didn't he let us all have dark skin? Nothing more beautiful. I use that self-tanner stuff. I'll be putting it on one arm. Phone rings. I can't remember where I was. Why didn't he let us all? And by the way, my mama taught me about women's liberation. So much fun stuff to growing up here. Mama was couldn't drive a car, didn't finish high school, never had a job. Worked at May's Hosiery Mill, matching up socks 2 weeks, and that's it. Mama wasn't a professional person, and my daddy was a mechanic. My daddy taught me so much, but he worked 2 jobs and take care of his family. And so on Sunday, he was out cutting the grass, and Mama always said, people treat you the way you let them. And Daddy came to the table without his shirt on, cutting grass. It's hot outside. And she said, Jimmy, go put your shirt on. He said, there ain't nobody here. He says, I'm comfortable. He said, I'm putting my shirt on. I don't care what you say. She said, I don't want to sit here while I'm eating my chicken and look at your hairy, sweaty chest. Go put your shirt on, Jimmy. He said, I don't care what you said. I'm not putting my shirt on. She said, fine. She laid her fork down. She just excused herself from the table. She came back stripped to the waist. Let me assure you, my daddy never came to the table without his shirt on again. People treat you the way you let them treat you. When you got that little sign that says, make me feel important, the power that you have, I know that the number 2 thing, first of all, not only in the retention, but in recruiting, how important that is. And in my situation with my house burning down, I've been in the house 28 years. I wanted a new house. You ever get that way where you just want a new house? Husband, left brain, electrical engineer, graduated from Vanderbilt, invited to join Mensa, that club for geniuses. I tried to marry somebody smarter so I could improve the gene bank of my kids from all the inbreeding that, and then I read on the front page of the USA Today that the male child's brain is determined by the mama. Told my kids that. I was honest with them. They said, well, we're screwed. Married my high school sweetheart. Before I tell you about the house burning down, people often ask me, well, what's the secret in today's world of a relationship lasting that long? Well, I remind him on occasion I'm kind, I'm sweet, I'm loving, I'm a good cook. I've even written cookbooks, had a cooking show, and I make a lot of money. A lot of money. What could he find in another woman that I can't have fixed? I'm going to be honest with you people. You've been honest with me. It's difficult to keep that old spark going. I said to him on Valentine's Day, after all these years of marriage, what is it about me that still turns you on? He thought about it a while. All right, it was a long while. Finally, he said, well, honey, you're so clean. I didn't laugh. I don't appreciate y'all laughing either. Went out the next day, though, and bought myself a $150 Vanity Fair peignoir and negligee black. Walked out in the bedroom that night and twirled around like Loretta Young used to. You remember that? You know what he said? You see, you got to have a sense of humor in a relationship. He said, well, any friend of Zorro's is a friend of mine. If you're taking notes, this is one of them I take. Money's not everything, but it's right up there with oxygen. So as my friend's driving down the road, she said, Rita, did you ever think you'd get to ride in a Rolls Royce? It's poor. It's the difference in poor and poor. Poor is what it costs. If you grew up so poor, did you ever think you'd get to ride in a Rolls Royce? You know what I said? Not in the front seat. She never mentioned it again. Aristotle Onassis says if he had his life to live over again, he'd do one thing different. He'd hang around rich people sooner. He'd come to this kind of convention. I tell you, the GAMP folks, they work hard for you to have. Have they done a good job? Have they put together something really good? Bonnie Godsman, we've been back there talking. Oh, my gosh, Darrell Lee, all the people that are working on this, and you get the benefit of learning. And by the way, back to the marriage thing, before you marry a man, and a speech is like a marriage. You don't always like to get into it. But before you marry, you do not know how loud he's going to chew on an apple. You can hear it a mile away. Before you marry a man, you do not know he's going to get to play golf at 5 o'clock in the morning. You can hear that cereal bowl just a rattling and he making all that noise. Before you marry a man, you do not know he has gas. Now, folks, we dated 6 years. It must have been backed up to his ears. We were married a week and there was a mushroom cloud over our apartment. The canary died. But you got to have a sense of humor. We're watching that Robert Redford movie, Indecent Proposal, and I've interviewed Robert Redford, where he offered $1 million to Demi Moore's husband if he could sleep with her. My husband said, you've interviewed him. Let me ask you something. For $1 million, would you sleep with Robert Redford? I said, David, that is a lot of money. And I don't know if I can come up with it or not. The house is struck by lightning, total loss. I wanted a new house. Husband didn't move. He wasn't going to move. We weren't going to move. So guess what? Lightning struck, burnt the house down, got a new house, didn't have to move. Let me tell you something else, though, the other side of this story. We live in the desert in Arizona. We didn't have flood insurance. Well, we should have flood insurance at an A level. Well, July, 3 inches of rain fell in 21 minutes, and 3 feet of water went through our house. No flood insurance. You know how much flood insurance would have cost me, folks? $400. I do not speak a year. Most of you probably know those kind of things. I don't speak to any audience that I don't say, check your insurance. You know why? Captain Scully, this happened about 5 years ago, January, 2009. Captain Scully saved many, many people's lives, as you know, that flight, U.S. Air flight that landed on the Hudson. You know what he said to his crew and the passengers when that plane hit? I changed it a little bit, but he said, brace for impact. You're in the business to prepare people. Saw a video of a child born with spina bifida. You're in the business to prepare people to brace for impact. I say prepare for impact with what you folks have to offer. And when you bring people on board and you recruit them and you let them be aware that they're going to work long hours and be underpaid in order to work shorter hours, and sometimes they may feel they're overpaid, but they're going to have to pay a price. You're in the most wonderful position to make a difference in so many people's lives, and I am grateful that you get that. And by the way, you are around a lot of celebrities, I know that. And I love my friends that were in Kansas when they heard that Paul Newman, great actor, Academy Award-winning actor, was in town. Their husbands were ministers, and they were attending a convention. And they laughed. They said, well, what if we ran into Paul Newman? How would you act if you ran into Paul Newman? Well, we wouldn't act silly. We wouldn't gush and scream and carry on and squeal. We'd just go on about our business, but it'd be nice to see him. Well, they shop till they drop, retail therapy, and they go into Baskin-Robbins, and who is walking in with them? Paul Newman. And they go, don't say anything, we're gonna act silly. So they go over and they order their ice cream, and they don't even say a word to him. And they go outside on the sidewalk, and they're falling down laughing. Oh, my God, he was so good looking, and we were so cool, we didn't act silly. Wasn't that great? And the sister said, where is my ice cream cone? I paid you for it. And she said, oh, I got so shook up because Paul Newman was in there. She said, I forgot to bring it out. And she said, well, you go back in there and get my ice cream cone. So she goes back in. She said to the young man behind the counter, she said, son, she said, I paid for an ice cream cone, but I left it. And he said, well, ma'am, I don't have your ice cream cone. Paul Newman tapped her on the shoulder and said, ma'am, it's in your purse. I know, Bob, I got to quit. I wish you could have met my daddy. My daddy taught me a lesson I want you to go away with, and it's what goes around comes around. My daddy's a mechanic, always stopped and helped motors with car trouble. And I'd fuss as a teenager, Daddy, do you have to stop and help everybody? He'd say, yes, little lady, I do, because someday my babies might be out on the highway and somebody will stop and help you, because I'm going to stop and help this fella right now. And I've been out on a highway before. How many of you have ever been out on a highway before and you had car trouble? Well, the people that my daddy stopped to help were nowhere around. And I'd say to myself, okay, Daddy, you said something. And somebody else always stopped. And I'd say, thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Daddy. Truly, what goes around comes around. Wish you could have met him. His first airplane flight from Nashville to Phoenix to visit, the ticket agent could tell he was nervous because, first of all, he had coat hanger marks in his jacket and everything. You can't press those out. And he could tell he was scared. He said, sir, is this your bag? My daddy said, no, son, it's not. It's my brother-in-law's, but he said I could borrow it. Soon as Daddy got to Arizona, I took him to see the Grand Canyon. All of us in Arizona are proud of it. I said, Daddy, just look at this. It took millions of years to develop. He said, well, was it a government job? Something else. I actually have 28 pages of notes here, but we're not going to get to all of those. But if you want to improve your business, the Bible says ask, and you shall be given. I want you to leave here, and I want you to know that every whale knows a minnow, and every minnow knows a whale. And there's absolutely no reason that you would be in any way short on recruiting, because whatever you're looking for is looking for you. I tell myself that mantra every day. Every day and in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. That's a Milky Way statement. But whatever I'm looking for is looking for me. And then look at people. And if you read Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life, if you don't have time to read the whole book, it's a great book. First 4 words will say it all. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's the people that you can empower, that you can help, that you can encourage, that you can in any way train, support, and be as a leader to set that example. A fish dies at the head first. It's got to come alive at the head first for you to set that example to the other people that you come in contact with. There's a chance that we won't see each other again. That's just the way life is. In case I don't, I want to thank you for honoring me. You're here in this world to learn, and you're here to love. And I want you to know that I love you. And you say, well, you don't even know me. But the love in me, I had to love me before I could love you. But the love in me reaches out to all of you. And the best example for you to take away from this organization is that my minister was on a very turbulent flight. And he said, Rita, we all thought we were going to die. Oxygen masks came down. He said people were screaming and crying. But there was a little boy on that plane, Rita, that was having the time of his life. He was whooping every time that plane, he said, whooping, and people were praying and crying in several languages that they didn't even know. He said, trays were flying. He said, Rita, it was the scariest flight. And he said, we landed safely. And he said, everybody was shook up, but that little boy was laughing. He grabbed his backpack, and he took off running down the aisle. And you know how sometimes the captain is standing to the end of the aisle? Well, he ran down the aisle, and he jumped up onto that captain. He threw his arms around the captain's neck. And he said, Daddy, that was the most fun flight we've ever had. Knowing that Bob and knowing the position that Bonnie has and commitment she has and Darrell Lee, in the cockpit of the GAMA organization are people looking out for you, and praise them and thank them and recognize them. Thank you. Before I close for a standing ovation, I want you to know I love you all very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.